B12. Vitamin B12 is a heat stable, unlike folic acid, which is heat labile. Okay, folic acid is heat labile, whereas B12 is heat stable. Okay, so and this vitamin B12 contains cobalt atom at its center. Okay, and there are different forms of this vitamin B12, and normally the chemical name is known as cyanocobalamin. Cyanocobalamin is a common terms for vitamin B12, cyanocobalamin, and hydroxycobalamin is the form that is found in the food. Okay, and the cyanocobalamin that we call is actually not found in the food, but it is a synthetic form, similar to the folic acid. Okay, folic acid that we call is actually a synthetic form. Folate is the natural form. Okay, and hydroxycobalamin is a natural form, whereas cyanocobalamin is a synthetic form, which we regularly refer to as a vitamin B12. Cyanocobalamin, different varieties will be available. Synthetic, there are different synthetic cyanocobalamin, methylcobalamin, and adenosylcobalamin are also available. So methylcobalamin and adenosylcobalamin and they works as a coenzyme. Methylcobalamin and adenosylcobalamins are the active form of cobalamin. Okay, it means it is an active form of vitamin B12. You remember tetrahydrofolate is the active form of folate. Similarly, methylcobalamin and adenosylcobalamin is the active form of vitamin B12. You can see in the picture this hydroxycobalamin, methylcobalamin, B12 adenosylcobalamin, all these are the form of vitamin B12 that we get, that is synthetic form and that we can purchase in the drugstore. Some are tablets, or some are capsule form, or some are injectable form. Hydroxycobalamin is an injectable form of vitamin B12 that can be injected directly into the vein for the patient that lacks intrinsic factor, or that has some problem in the digestion and absorption of vitamin B12. We used to give directly into the vein. So this is the structure of vitamin B12. You can see the structure resembles the porphyrin structure of hemoglobin. So this looks like a porphyrin. In the hemoglobin, in the heme, there is an iron, whereas in this vitamin B12 there is a cobalt. Okay, and okay, this is the complex, very complex structure of vitamin B12, and you can see that this cobalt in the center is bound to the R group. R group could be cyanide, hydroxyl, or methyl group, or deoxyadenosine group. These groups can be bound to the cobalt in the 5th valency. Okay, and in the 6th valency there is normally dimethyl benzimidazole. Benzimidazole is the ring structure that is attached to the 6th valency of this vitamin B12 molecule. Okay, so you see the vitamin B12 in the center, and the causes of deficiency. What are the causes of deficiency of vitamin B12? The most important causes of vitamin B12 is aging, reduced absorption, and leaky gut, alcoholism, sometimes stress, medicine like antacids, and low protein diet is the major cause of the vitamin B12 deficiency. Obviously, if there is a low input and there is a defect in the absorption, and there is a rapid utilization, there is always chance of deficiency. Okay, so like the rules of economy, supply and demand. So you see the supply, if it is less, the demand will be high, and if there is a more supply, demand will be low. Similar to this, vitamin B12 deficiency is related to diet or medicine or defect in the absorption or defect in the intestine like leaky gut and all. Okay, so these are the causes of deficiency. And the symptoms mostly is anemia. The first symptoms may be fatigue, numbness, and tingling experiences in the limbs, especially the fingers and the feet. There is a numbness and tingling sensation. Okay, and fatigue is one of the important symptoms, and that is maybe due to anemia. And also there is a slower healing when there is a deficiency of vitamin B12, and in the blood you will find high level of homocysteine. Yesterday we saw that homocysteine is a byproduct of some amino acid that has to be converted to methionine, and for the conversion of homocysteine to methionine we require vitamin B12. If there is a deficiency of vitamin B12, homocysteine will be accumulated in the blood, and this homocysteine level may cause atherosclerosis and hypertension and all. So increased homocysteine is not a very good condition. Okay, and there is also impaired detoxification of the drugs and compound that is not suitable for our body. It also disturbs the xenobiotics metabolism. Okay, and the commonest symptoms which appear due to deficiency of vitamin B12 are this angular chelosis or this leukoplakia, what you have seen right now in the image. These are very common. So not this angular stomatosis, but this leukoplakia, the upper image. I think that most of you have also experienced this type of sore in the mouth area ulcer. This is a ulcer under the lips and sometimes even in the tonsil area. So this type of ulcer is maybe due to not always, but sometimes may be due to the deficiency of vitamin B12. And the vitamin B12 deficiency, chronic deficiency may result anemia. Okay, so these are the food from where you can get vitamin B12. If you want to have sufficient amount of vitamin B12 in the blood, you need to take all these foods. So we should have a variety of food in our daily diet. So yesterday also you saw there are lots of things that contains folic acid, and today I'm showing you a lot of food that contains vitamin B12. It means that if you consume same time of food every day, in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening, in the night time, then probably you may get a chance of deficiency of one or other forms of nutrients and vitamins and minerals. So if it includes variety in your diet, there is a less chance of having deficiency of many of the nutrients that you require. And the vegetarian people are more prone to develop vitamin B12 deficiency. If you see here, most of the things are animal products like egg, fish, and meat. They contain large amount of vitamin B12. Okay, so egg, fish, and meat are the major product. And beside that, dairy products may contain vitamin B12. Dairy products like cheese, curd, paneer, these things can contain vitamin B12. And obviously seeds and nuts, they are very rich in lots of vitamin, essential fatty acids, minerals. So we should consume large amount of nuts and seeds like legumes, lentil, beans, all these things, and this cashew nut, almond, all these seeds contains vitamin B12 as well. Okay, and oats also contains vitamin B12. So what about the daily requirement? If you see, the daily requirement is very, very less. adult require 3 microgram per day, okay, and the children require even less amount of vitamin B12. But the pregnancy and lactating woman needs large amount of vitamin B12, that is 4 microgram per day, because of this rapid changes of the hemopoietic system, like rapid synthesis of RBCs and WBCs and other cells require vitamin B12. Similar to the folic acid, vitamin B12 is also important for the cell division. Okay, for the cell division, vitamin B12 is very important. That's why vitamin B12 deficiency leads to anemia. So the pregnancy and lactating women needs more amount of vitamin B12. So the vitamin B12, if you see, is synthesized only in the microorganism, and only the animal can synthesize or has the animal product contains this vitamin B12. Vitamin B12 is normally not found in the plants. Okay, the animal may obtain the vitamin B12 through the bacterial flora that they harvest in the intestine. We also harvest large amount of microorganism in our intestine, that is a symbiotic organism that produces vitamin B12 and many other essential fatty acids that are the energy source of tissues. Our tissue gets energy from the fatty acids. Fatty acids generated by the microorganism that we have in our intestine. So if our intestine is completely sterile, we may not survive, or we may develop many symptoms, deficiency symptoms, and we may not live healthy. So nowadays, probiotics are the capsule. Probiotics organism are given in the form of capsule to the patient or the patient who is recovering from the chronic illness. Okay, so because due to the heavy treatment of antibiotics, what happens? This microorganism in our intestine will be depleted or even destroyed. So to replace those microorganisms, we normally take probiotics. Okay, and the curd, if you see the curd contains large amount of probiotics. So curds, even sometimes probiotic supplemented curds are available in the market. Not in our Nepal. In Nepal, some of the biotechnological companies are trying to produce probiotic supplemented curd, but we are not successful because we are very fond of making curd at our home, or sometimes we buy, and we also like Jujudo, that is very famous in Kathmandu. And so local dairy curd also contains probiotic, but even the developing country, they are trying to produce curd with the enriched probiotics. Okay, and the liver, whole milk, egg, pork, they are also very good amount, very good source of vitamin B12. It starts with the metabolism of vitamin B12. In the metabolism, we need to know how this vitamin B12 are absorbed, they are transported, and they are utilized in the body. This is a metabolism of vitamin B12. Starting from the digestion and absorption. Normally, vitamin B12 is found in the proteinous food, so it is required to degrade protein or liberate protein from the vitamin B12, and for this acidic pH in the intestine is very helpful, and acidic pH due to HCl in the intestine, and also the pepsin that is present in the intestine will help to degrade protein or separate protein from this vitamin B12. When this vitamin B12 is separated from the protein, it may be absorbed. And immediately after release from the protein, it binds to the protein, another protein known as R binder. R binders are present in the intestine. Okay, R binder are even present in the saliva. Okay, and similar to the R binder, that there are many other proteins that immediately binds to the free cobalamin in the stomach, and those are transcobalamin, haptocorrin. Transcobalamin and haptocorrin are also present in the stomach. Okay, and when this cobalamin or vitamin B12 binds with the R protein, which is present in the saliva and gastric juice, it moves to the small intestine. Okay, it slowly moves to the small intestine, and in the duodenum, this R protein is again hydrolyzed by the proteases. This R protein, which initially binds with the vitamin B12. At first, it binds with the vitamin B12 in the stomach, has to be released again, has to be separated again in the intestine. Okay, so when there is an intestinal insufficiency, or in the case of pancreatitis or chronic pancreatic disease, what happens due to the insufficiency of the pancreatic proteases, the absorption of vitamin B12 is disturbed. Okay, so this R protein has to be degraded from the vitamin B12 in the small intestine. Okay, and cobalamin bind to intrinsic factor in the proximal intestine. In the proximal intestine, there is another protein which is known as an intrinsic factor. Okay, so the cobalamin intrinsic factor now forms a complex. After liberating from the R protein, it forms a complex with intrinsic factor, and it travels to the ileum and binds to the receptor and is slowly absorbed into the enterocyte or the intestinal cells. Okay, some of the vitamin B12 can be absorbed passively, or passive diffusion can be there can be a passive diffusion of vitamin B12 also when pharmacological amounts are given, not the natural product but mostly the pharmacological amount. Okay, and this type of drugs are mostly given to the patient who lacks this intrinsic factor in the intestine. Actually, this intrinsic factor are synthesized from the parietal cell in the stomach. In the stomach, there are parietal cell that synthesize this intrinsic factor. But the binding of intrinsic factor happens only in the proximal intestine, not in the stomach. In the stomach, cobalamin binds with the R protein. Okay, so when there is a malabsorption due to achlorhydria or lack of intrinsic factor or the pancreatic insufficiency, the absorption of vitamin B12 will be impaired or hampered. Okay, so the absorption rate decreases with the increasing intake. So if you intake large amount of vitamin B12, in that condition also due to the saturation, not all the vitamin you have taken will be absorbed. So if there is a saturation of this intrinsic factor or binding proteins and all, so all the consumed vitamin B12 will be lost in the feces. Okay, so depends on the saturation and the amount of vitamin B12 that you take in the diet. So this is a diagrammatic representation which will be very, very important when you will be asked in the exam, write down the metabolism of the vitamin B12. You have to draw this image and describe how vitamin B12 are digested and absorbed in the intestine and transported in the blood to the different tissues. Okay, so this is up to the digestion and absorption. In this image, you can see that the acidic pH is very important for the vitamin B12 digestion, where this pepsin protein help in breakdown of natural protein that is bound with the vitamin B12, and there is intrinsic factor produced in the stomach by the parietal cells, and these R proteins are also synthesized in the stomach and also present in the salivary juice. So first, initially this vitamin B12 bind with the R proteins and vitamin B12 complex are formed initially, and it travels to the small intestine, and in small intestine what happens, this R protein there, and when this transcobalamin, vitamin B12 complex bind with this receptor, the vitamin B12 are taken. Okay, and distribution in the tissue. The total body store is about 2 to 5 milligram, and maximum of the total body store is found in the liver. Liver can hold or liver store maximum amount of vitamin B12 present in our body. 60% of the vitamin B12 that is present in our body is only in the liver. So liver is the main storage organ. Okay, that's why the liver, the goat liver or the beef liver or the pork liver is a very important source of vitamin B12. Okay, so the biological half-life of vitamin B12 is very, very long. Actually, around even more than a year. The half-life is even more than a year. And but the reserve in the intestine infant is very, very low. Okay, so this is the things. And excess of methylcobalamin is taken up by the liver and stored in the form of adenosylcobalamin. Actually, liver stores in the form of adenosylcobalamin. Liver can store 4 to 5 milligram. That is around 60% of the total body reservoir is 4 to 5 milligram of vitamin B12, and that is sufficiently supply vitamin B12 for 4 to 6 years. So if you do not take vitamin B12 properly in the diet, slowly the store will be depleted, but it may last for up to 4 years or 5 years. Okay, so when there is a vitamin B12 deficiency symptoms, it means that this person is suffering from malabsorption or low intake or increased requirement since 4 to 5 years. Okay, after 4 to 5 years only, the deficiency symptoms may appear. So the methyl, okay, I will have a break here. So you can start question, you can ask question now, and I will move forward after answering your question. Do you have any questions till now? Because we have already completed some important aspects of this metabolism, that is digestion, absorption, and transportation. Already we have covered. Digestion, absorption, and transportation has been covered till now. So I request you to ask question if there is any. Do you have any questions? Or shall I move ahead? Someone please speak. Shall I move ahead?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay then. So the function of this vitamin is the methylcobalamin is required for the function of the folate-dependent enzyme methionine synthase. Methionine synthase, already yesterday we saw a reaction where vitamin B12 dependent enzyme methionine synthase was showing. So this enzyme is required for the synthesis of amino acid methionine from homocysteine. Okay, so homocysteine is the a byproduct of some amino acid, and that can be converted to methionine because only few amino acids are essential amino acids. All other amino acids are synthesized in the body. Okay, so the methionine is also synthesized and from the homocysteine. So homocysteine is converted to methionine by the vitamin B12 dependent enzyme methionine synthase. This is the same reaction that we saw yesterday. Homocysteine is converted to methionine by methionine synthase, which is vitamin B12 dependent enzyme. In the absence of vitamin B12, this methionine synthesis will not be occurring. And similarly, this is also important for the resynthesis of active tetrahydrofolate from methyl tetrahydrofolate. Okay, so tetrahydrofolate here, methyl tetrahydrofolate is the methyl donor in this reaction. This methyl tetrahydrofolate donate this methyl group to homocysteine to produce methionine and regenerates active tetrahydrofolate. In absence of this vitamin B12, there will be a folate trap. Folate trap hypothesis is explained by the same reaction that we have learned yesterday. Okay, so regeneration of methionine is done by vitamin B12 dependent enzyme. Otherwise, what happens? Otherwise, homocysteine will be accumulated in the blood, and this homocysteine is a very important risk factor for the development of hypertension and atherosclerosis leading to cardiovascular disease. Okay, Methionine is, so what is the use of methionine? Already you saw that methionine is regenerated in this reaction, but why we require this methionine? Methionine is required for the synthesis of S-adenosyl methionine, okay? If there is no methionine, S-adenosyl methionine could not be synthesized. S-adenosyl methionine is a methyl group donor used in the methylation reaction for the DNA, RNA, and protein. So for the protein synthesis, for the DNA synthesis, for the RNA synthesis, what happens? Methionine is required. Methionine is required for DNA and RNA and even the protein synthesis. Okay, so that's why we need methionine. And methionine is first converted to S-adenosyl methionine, which is a methyl group donor or used for methylation reaction. So you see this homocysteine is converted to methionine, and this methionine will be further used for the S-adenosyl methionine synthesis. Not only this, methyl transferase is also important for tetrahydrofolate, which is used for the DNA synthesis. And this vitamin B12 dependent enzyme is also useful for methylmalonic acid conversion to succinic acid. So the methylmalonic acid is the byproduct of organ fatty acids breakdown. Okay, when there is a organ fatty acids breakdown in our body due to beta oxidation and alpha oxidation and other oxidation, omega oxidation, what happens? Methylmalonic acid is produced, and this methylmalonic acid is has to be converted to succinyl-CoA or succinic acid, which can enter citric acid cycle. In the absence of vitamin B12, this methylmalonic acid will be accumulated. It is not converted to succinic acid. And so if it is not converted to succinic acid, it cannot enter to citric acid cycle to gives you more energy. Okay, we need energy. For that, succinic acid has to be synthesized from methylmalonic acid, which is a byproduct of oxidation of fatty acids, organ fatty acids. In absence of vitamin B12, not only homocysteine is increased in the blood, there will be increased methylmalonic acid. Okay, so we can measure homocysteine indirectly to see the level of vitamin B12. Similarly, we can see methylmalonic acid in the urine. Okay, in the urine we can measure methylmalonic acid to see the level of vitamin B12 indirectly. This is the indirect evidence, but we can directly measure vitamin B12 in the blood as well. So if you want to know the vitamin B12 level in the blood, so if you want to see vitamin B12, if you want to see the vitamin B12 in the blood, you can go to the lab, give your blood to see the level of vitamin B12. Okay, so the vitamin B12 level can be directly seen, but indirect evidence is the amount of homocysteine in the blood and amount of methylmalonic acid in the urine. And this condition is also known as methylmalonuria. Methylmalonuria. Okay, so these are the two important reactions where vitamin B12 is required. So you may ask in the exam, write down few reactions where vitamin B12s are required. I suggest you to go to the refer to some books or some things so that you can learn what are the reactions in which vitamin B12s are required. Okay, now see the broad picture. Okay, this picture will give you complete information about the role of folic acid and role of vitamin B12 in many reactions. Okay, including the DNA synthesis and including the methylation reaction for DNA, RNA, and the protein. Okay, where shall I start from? Okay, this tetrahydrofolate, which is the active form of folic acid that is generated from folate by the help of folate reductase. Already you studied yesterday. This is a folate reductase produces tetrahydrofolate, and this tetrahydrofolate is used for the methylation reaction, and in that use riboflavin and methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase. This methyl tetrahydrofolate is produced now, and this methyl tetrahydrofolate is involved for the conversion of this homocysteine to methionine. Okay, methionine. This methyl tetrahydrofolate actually donates this methyl group to homocysteine and produces methionine, and this methionine further produces S-adenosyl methionine. S-adenosyl methionine is produced from this methionine, and this S-adenosyl methionine is involved in the methylation reaction of DNA, RNA, and protein. In absence of this methionine, methylation reaction will be disturbed and DNA RNA synthesis will be impaired. Similarly, if there is a deficiency of this tetrahydrofolate, and what happens? This tetrahydrofolate is a carrier of one carbon compound like 5,10 methylene tetrahydrofolate or methinyl tetrahydrofolate. This tetrahydrofolate is the carrier of one carbon compound. This one carbon is important for the synthesis of DNA. Okay, so in absence of this tetrahydrofolate, especially this active tetrahydrofolate, what happens? This DNA synthesis will be impaired. So this is the regeneration process of the active tetrahydrofolate. When this reaction is impaired, what happens? Regeneration of tetrahydrofolate will be impaired. If there is no vitamin B12, tetrahydrofolate will be trapped, and this trapped tetrahydrofolate cannot produce this nucleic acid. So this is a symbiotic reaction. There is a close relation between vitamin B12 and folic acid. You have to remember this image. Yesterday I suggest you to draw image for the reaction, and now you can add this methylation reaction in that reaction. Yesterday you must have drawn that image, and now I request you to add this methylation reaction to that image where it shows the methylation of DNA, RNA, and protein happens due to this methionine. In absence of this methionine, methylation reaction will be impaired or disturbed, leading to the less synthesis of DNA, RNA, and protein. Okay. So already we discussed about the causes of vitamin B12 deficiency, and the most important thing is inadequate intake and malabsorption, especially in the elderly people above 60 may have a slower absorption of vitamin B12 due to erosion of the parietal cells in the stomach. Okay, erosion of parietal cell in the stomach, or due to the achlorhydria, what happens? Vitamin B12 absorption is reduced, and vegan is more prone to develop vitamin B12. Absorption defects are due to congenital causes or the gastrectomy or the bowel abnormalities like blind loop syndrome, tropical sprue, fish tapeworm. Fish tapeworm are not very common in Nepal, but fish tapeworm are common in those areas where seafood are highly consumed. Okay, so these are the causes of defect in the absorption. And the deficiency symptoms already we have discussed. It's the fatigue, numbness, stress, and angular chelosis or leukoplakia or the ulceration of the mouth. These are the symptoms. Even dry and coarse hair is the example or the symptoms of vitamin B12, and other vitamins, especially vitamin B3, B6 is very important for the quality of the hair. Okay, so vitamin B12 deficiency causes pernicious anemia. Okay, pernicious anemia and megaloblastic anemia is two different things. Mostly the megaloblastic anemia is due to the folic acid deficiency, whereas pernicious anemia is also a megaloblastic anemia. Pernicious anemia is also, so if you see the image of the RBC image of the pernicious anemia, it is also megaloblastic. It means that there is a high amount of MCV in the blood, or the RBC cell is high in the pernicious anemia, similar to the folic acid deficiency, but the pernicious anemia is due to vitamin B12 deficiency, absolute deficiency of vitamin B12. And there will be low hemoglobin, decreased number of RBC and megaloblastic cells in the bone marrow. This may also be associated with neuronal degeneration and demyelination of the nervous system. So you see, Another symptoms of this vitamin B12 deficiency is neuronal degeneration. Due to the neuronal degeneration, there will be a chronic back pain also. Okay, the myelin sheath of the neuron will be damaged or demyelinated, and that results in the back pain or some neuronal pain. So in those conditions, what happens if vitamin B12 is supplemented, slowly the neuronal pain will be subsidized. Okay, so vitamin B12 deficiency symptoms are very wide and vivid. So most of the time we go to the hospital because of low back pain and other neuronal pain, which what we suppose is due to the erosion of the bone that causes the stricture of the nerve in the vertebra, lower lumbar vertebra, but it is not because of the stricture or the bulging. It is maybe due to the simple demyelination of the nerve cells that may be improved immediately after giving vitamin B12 injection or vitamin B12 capsule in a healthy individual. Okay. So you can see this is a bone marrow picture showing hyper segmented and big nucleus and big cells. Okay, you can see the nucleus is hyper segmented and nucleus is very big because it is due to the fact that the cell division is arrested because of the lack of DNA synthesis or DNA methylation, RNA methylation. What happens is cell division is arrested. So that results in the megaloblastic anemia, in the pernicious anemia also. Pernicious anemia also results in the megaloblastic anemia. And the cause of pernicious anemia is absolutely due to autoimmune destruction of the gastric parietal cell, or hereditary malabsorption of vitamin B12, or the partial or total gastrectomy leading to intrinsic factor deficiency. All the causes related to pernicious anemia is related with the intrinsic factor. Okay, intrinsic factor deficiency leads to pernicious anemia. Insufficient production of intrinsic factor or gastric hydrochloric acids is normally seen in the older people. That also results in the pernicious anemia. And dietary deficiency in the strict vegetarian also leads to pernicious anemia. And what is the relation between megaloblastic anemia and pernicious anemia? Diminished activity of methionine synthase in vitamin B12 deficiency inhibits the regeneration of tetrahydrofolate, and that is known as a folate trap. And this, due to the folate trap, there will be less synthesis of DNA, so the replication of the cell division will be arrested, leading into the megaloblastic anemia. Right? Okay, so so this is the one. If there is adequate folate level, also there will be a trap of the folic acid due to vitamin B12 deficiency, and this is the relation between folic acid and megaloblastic anemia, and this is the rationale for double vitamin therapy in the case of anemia. Why not only you give folic acid or vitamin B12 in the patient with the anemia? Is sometimes even if there is a sufficient amount of folic acid, vitamin B12 deficiency may cause the anemia. Okay. Thus, in both folate and vitamin B12 deficiency, folate is unavailable to participate in DNA synthesis. This impairment of DNA synthesis affects rapidly dividing cell of the bone marrow earlier than other cells, resulting in the production of large immature hemoglobin poor red blood cells, resulting in the production of large immature hemoglobin poor red blood cells. Why hemoglobin poor red cells? Because due to the deficiency of the RNA methylation. RNA is the substance that helps in the protein synthesis. Protein means hemoglobin also is a protein. So, so there is a hemoglobin poor large RBC. Okay, hemoglobin poor large RBC is seen. So that is known as a megaloblastic anemia. The resulting anemia is known as a megaloblastic anemia, for which the pernicious anemia is the main cause. Okay, so this is again a same picture. I will explain it again so that you may remember completely. Folic acid is converted to tetrahydrofolate, and this tetrahydrofolate is converted to this tetrahydrofolate with one carbon compound, and this tetrahydrofolate with one carbon compound is used for the purine biosynthesis, okay, and also for pyrimidine biosynthesis. And this tetrahydrofolate is converted to 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate. This 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate is used for the regeneration of methionine from the homocysteine with the help of vitamin B12 dependent enzyme. And this vitamin B12 dependent enzyme regenerate methionine. This methionine produces S-adenosyl methionine, which is involved in the methylation reaction of the RNA, DNA, and many other protein. So this S-adenosyl homocysteine is produced and which is recycled again. So here you see the lack of synthesis of purine and pyrimidine and lack of synthesis of DNA and RNA both can result in the megaloblastic anemia. Okay, now we have already covered many issues related to the anemia. Okay, megaloblastic and pernicious anemia. Now we go forward for the laboratory investigation. Okay, so if we want to check the vitamin B12 in the blood, you can directly check vitamin B12 in the blood, in the serum. Okay, go to the lab and ask the people, the laboratory scientists to check vitamin B12 in the blood. Okay, they will measure vitamin B12 in your blood and give you the result. And the indirect method of this vitamin B12 level assessment is the measurement of homocysteine and measurement of homocysteine in the blood and methylmalonic acid in the urine. Okay, can be measured in the biochemistry lab. Similarly, the peripheral blood smear is one of the important diagnostic tool. If you see the peripheral blood smear, you may see megaloblastic cell, big size cell with a big nucleus. Okay, can be seen. Hypersegmented neutrophil can be seen. Okay, so peripheral blood smear gives you a very good idea about the anemia. So that's all. Thank you for your participation, active listening. I hope you may ask some questions so that I can answer you. Okay, do you have any question? Hello. Do you have any question, please?
Sir, what actually vitamin B12 does to methionine synthase?
Sorry, I couldn't get you.
So what actually vitamin B12 does to methionine synthase?
Thymine synthase.
Methionine synthase like vitamin B12 ले चाहिँ के गर्छ सर?
Thymine synthase लाई भने तिमीले
methionine synthase लाई vitamin B12 ले के गर्छ?
मिथाइलिन भनेको मिथाइलेसन रियाक्सन को लागि के मिथाइलेसन हाम्रो बडीमा चाहिँ कतिपय सिन्थेटिक एनाबोलिजम हुन्छ नि एनाबोलिजममा चाहिँ जहिले पनि मिथाइलेसन रियाक्सनहरु चाहिन्छ के एनाबोलिजममा मिथाइलेसन रियाक्सन इज भेरी इम्पोर्टेन्ट इन एनाबोलिजम सिन्थेटिक प्रोसेसमा मिथाइलेसन रियाक्सन धेरै ठाउँमा हुन्छ एक ठाउँमा दुई ठाउँमा मात्रै होइन धेरै ठाउँमा मिथाइलेसन मिथाइल ग्रुप चाहिँ एड गर्नु पर्छ
मैले भन्न खोजेको सर भिटामिन B12 ले चाहिँ मिथायोनिन सिन्थेज इन्जाइमलाई के गर्छ सर लाइक कोफॅक्टर भयो नि त
कोइन्जाइम हो कोइन्जाइम अलरेडी यु नो द कन्सेप्ट अफ कोइन्जाइम एन्ड कोफॅक्टरहरु भनेको चाहिँ मेटल हो जस्तै चाहिँ कोबाल्ट निकल आइरन हैन जिंक दे आर कोफॅक्टर हैन तर यो भिटामिनहरु जति चाहिँ सबै चाहिँ के हो त कोइन्जाइमको रूपमा काम गर्छ भिटामिनहरुले चाहिँ जस्तो भिटामिन B1 B2 B3 त्यो चाहिँ के गर्छ भने त्यो इन्जाइमको एक्टिभ साइट भन्दा अरु डिफरेन्ट साइटमा गएर बाइन्ड हुन्छ अनि त्यो बाइन्ड भएपछि त्यो एपो इन्जाइम चाहिँ होलो इन्जाइममा कन्भर्ट हुन्छ एपो इन्जाइम कोइन्जाइम होलो इन्जाइम भनेर तिमीले इन्जाइम पढ्दाखेरि पढाएको थियो नि त्यो इन्जाइमलाई कम्प्लिट बनाउनको लागि चाहिँ त्यो भिटामिन चाहिन्छ त्यो भिटामिन भएन भनेदेखि चाहिँ त्यो इन्जाइम चाहिँ फङ्सनल नै हुँदैन के त्यो इन्जाइमले कामै गर्न सक्दैन त्यो रियाक्सन कसरी अगाडि बढ्छ त्यस्तो हो
थ्याङ्क यू सर।
ओके, अरु कसले क्वेशन?
स्क्रिन चाहिँ सर
महेशले हो?
हजुर सर।
ल महेश भन।
सर मेगालोब्लास्टिक एनिमियामा डिएनए को सिन्थेसिस हुँदैन अनि चाहिँ न्युक्लियसको साइज किन बढिहाल्छ सर?
ऊ चाहिँ के हुन्छ भने ब्रेकडाउनको लागि चाहिँ ठिक्क हुन्छ, त्यो भित्र तयारी चाहिँ हुन्छ नि सेल डिभिजनको लागि प्रिपेयर्डनेस चाहिँ सबै हुन्छ। तर अब सेल डिभिजन हुनको लागि त पहिला न्युक्लिक एसिड पनि सिन्थेसिस हुनु पर्यो, न्युक्लिक एसिड सिन्थेसिस हुन सक्दैन। त्यही भएर न्युक्लियर म्याटेरियलहरू भित्रको प्रिपरेसनहरू चाहिँ धेरै हुने, तर न्युक्लियस डिभाइड हुन नसकेको भएर न्युक्लियस भएको।
अनि सर स्क्रिन सर
हजुर,
अनि त्यो आर रिसेप्टर थियो नि एउटा भिटामिन B12 प्लस आर रिसेप्टर।
आर रिसेप्टर होइन, आर बाइन्डिङ प्रोटिन।
त्यो आर बाइन्डिङ प्रोटिनको काम के हो सर?
त्यो आर बाइन्डिङ प्रोटिनको काम चाहिँ त्यो स्टोमकबाट इन्टेस्टाइनसम्म त्यसलाई पुर्याइदिनुको लागि साथी जस्तो मात्रै हो। त्यो इन्टेस्टाइनमा जाने बित्तिकै फेरि त्यो पनि इट विल बी लिबरेटेड एन्ड मेड फ्री, त्यो त्यतिसम्मको लागि साथी हो त्यो, जस्ट फ्रम स्टोमक टु इन्टेस्टाइन। If it is not bound to the R protein, what happens? The acidic pH or some other environmental condition in the stomach may damage the vitamin B12, or vitamin B12 may escape. That's why it first, I don't know the exact mechanism is not very clear, but if it maybe it prevent the loss of vitamin B12 in the initial period. Okay, so in the initial period, R protein binds with the vitamin B12 and it goes to the intestine, and in the intestine this R protein is degraded and it binds to the intrinsic factor. Okay, do you have any other question, please?
Yes sir.
Okay, Bala.
Sir, water soluble vitamin को accumulation हुन सक्छ कि नै बढी?
वाटर सोल्युबल भिटामिन को चाहिँ नि एक्युमुलेसन हुँदैन नर्मली, तर यो भाइटामिन B12 चाहिँ वाटर सोल्युबल भिटामिन भए पनि यसको स्टोर चाहिँ हुन्छ।
सर जस्तो अब हाइड्रोक्सिल कोबालामाइन हैन, अब त्यो त इन्जेक्टेबल फर्म भयो हैन, अनि यसको त हुने चान्स त छ त सर? फेरि
होइन, मैले भने नि भिटामिन B12 चाहिँ वाटर सोल्युबल भिटामिन हो, फोलिक एसिड पनि वाटर सोल्युबल भिटामिन हो, तर भिटामिन B12 चाहिँ नि के हुन्छ भने एस एडिनोसाइल भाइटामिन B12 भएर चाहिँ लिभरमा स्टोर हुन सक्छ के। इट इज कन्भर्टेड टु एस एडिनोसाइल। भाइटामिन B12 बाइन्ड्स विथ एडिनोसाइल ग्रुप, एडिनोसाइल ग्रुपसँग बाइन्ड भएपछि चाहिँ यो के हुन्छ भने लिभर सेल भित्र गएर ट्र्याप हुन्छ क्या, बाहिर निस्किन सक्दैन नर्मली चाहिँ, अनि बिस्तारै रिलिज हुन्छ। बिस्तारै रिलिज हुने भएको भएर डिपेन्ड्स अन द डिमान्ड इट इज रिलिज एन्ड युटिलाइज। सो भाइटामिन B12 being a water soluble vitamin is stored in the liver for certain minutes. अदरवाइज वाटर सोल्युबल भिटामिन त युरिनबाट ब्लडमा आएपछि त बगेर जानुपर्ने हो नि, तर पनि यो चाहिँ भिटामिन B12 चाहिँ स्पेसली स्टोर हुन सक्छ लिभरमा केही हदसम्म, नट मच। 4 to 5 मिलिग्राम भनेको त तर हुन त एकदम सफिसियन्ट एमाउन्ट हो। 4 देखि 6 वर्षसम्मलाई हामीलाई पुग्छ स्टोर, राम्रोसँग स्टोर भरेर राख्यो भने 4 देखि 6 वर्षलाई पुग्छ, त्यति धेरै हुन्छ।
अनि सर साइड इफेक्ट देखा पर्छ कि नै?
अब वाटर सोल्युबल भाइटामिनको साइड इफेक्ट भनेको अब त्यही हो, अब हेडेक सेडेक हुने, ड्राइनेस हुने, त्यस्तो त्यस्तो अलि भमिटिङ जस्तो हुने, त्यस्ता त्यस्ता खालका बेसिक साइड इफेक्ट बाहेक अरू मेजर साइड इफेक्ट चाहिँ त्यस्तो देखिएको छैन। There is no major side effect. Do you have any question now? Almost we have finished 1 hour time. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.